That loss to the Ravens didn't end when the clock hit 0. What Joe Burrow said after the game was so strong that it completely changed how this win should be viewed. And that's not something you hear every day from a quarterback at his level. It wasn't an excuse, and it wasn't a canned response. It was a statement that revealed the real impact of what Baltimore did on the field. And that's where things get really interesting. Because when the leader of the opposing team talks like that, it means the game was far bigger than the final score. What the Ravens cause goes beyond individual plays. It messes with confidence, mindset, and the balance of power in the division. Stick with me until the end, because Burrow's words explain exactly why this win says so much about who the Ravens are right now. When Joe Burrow said after the game that bad teams do bad team things, he wasn't just talking about the Bengals. He was reacting to what the Ravens did to his team on the field. That kind of statement comes from a quarterback who enters a game believing he can compete and then, snap after snap, realizes that control is never on his side at any point. Burrow almost never talks like this. Normally, he protects his teammates, the coaching staff, the locker room. But this time, the Ravens' defensive performance was so suffocating that there was no room for the usual script. Constant pressure, confusing reads, and a completely stalled offense forced the Bengals' leader himself to admit that nothing worked. That shows the level of Baltimore's dominance. This wasn't a game decided by one play or one isolated mistake. It was an effort that slowly drained the opponent's confidence, little by little, until the rival quarterback stepped up to the mic and admitted the team simply wasn't good enough. And when the strongest quote of the night comes from the other sideline, it's clear the Ravens didn't just win on the scoreboard. They won mentally. This victory started on the field, but its effect showed up clearly in Burrow's words. And that connects directly to what Baltimore's defense did to him over all 4 quarters. When Joe Burrow went to the podium and said the quarterback needs to play better, that wasn't automatic humility or a media-ready answer. That comment comes from a game where he realized, even in the first half, that he was always reacting to what the opponent was doing, never dictating anything himself. The Ravens took away his sense of control from the very beginning and turned every snap into a survival test. Baltimore didn't need chaos to do it. The defense was organized, patient, and brutally efficient. First reads were taken away. Second reads took too long to develop, and the pocket was never stable enough for Burrow to feel comfortable. He had to think faster than he wanted to, throw earlier than ideal, and absorb contact he normally avoids, all because the Ravens controlled the pace of the game. That kind of dominance doesn't show up only in sacks or turnovers. You see it in the quarterback's body language, the way he walks between plays, the look on his face after an incompletion. Burrow was pushed out his natural game, forced into situations that don't fit his profile, and that explains why the frustration spilled over in his post-game comments. When a quarterback of that caliber publicly takes the blame, it's because he felt mentally neutralized, not just physically beaten. And that mental impact doesn't come out of nowhere. It's built snap by a defense that knows exactly what it's doing, something that becomes even clearer when you understand how the Ravens turned that control into a complete collapse of the opposing offense. One of the most revealing parts of Burrow's comments is when he admits the team didn't play complimentary football. In reality, that statement is a direct result of what the Ravens did from the very first drive. Baltimore broke the Bengals' rhythm so early that the offense never truly got into the game, forcing Burrow to chase something that was never there. The Ravens controlled the clock, the field position, and the emotional tone of the game. Every third down felt too long. Every positive gain came with extra effort, and no momentum ever lasted. That wears on a quarterback, because he starts feeling like he has to fix everything himself, even when the game isn't calling for heroics but for stability. As the snaps piled up, that feeling turned into frustration. Burrow tried to speed things up, tried to force windows, tried to create something that simply didn't exist. The Ravens' defense was always in position, always prepared, always reacting just a second faster, which was enough to kill any attempt at momentum. And when the rhythm dies, confidence goes with it. Burrow's comments aren't just about poor execution, but about a game where the Ravens never allowed the Bengals to believe. That emotional control of the matchup sets the stage for something even heavier, the psychological impact of being dominated for all 4 quarters.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, But before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
Being shut out for the first time in his career isn't just a statistical note for Joe Burrow. It's a moment that carries weight, especially because it came against a division rival that knows his tendencies, his strengths, and his usual escape routes under pressure. The Ravens didn't just prevent points. They erased any sense of progress. Baltimore built that result methodically. There was no panic, no breakdowns, no moments of relaxation. The defense played with discipline, keeping Burrow trapped inside a rigid game where every attempt at adjustment was neutralized before it could even take shape. That kind of performance makes a quarterback feel like he's running into a wall. No matter what he tries, nothing changes. And that's when the impact becomes mental, because the player realizes he's not losing due to isolated mistakes, but because the other team is simply better at every level. That's why this shutout echoes so strongly in Burrow's words. He doesn't sound like someone who lost a close game, but like someone who was completely overmatched. And that feeling of helplessness helps explain why this Ravens win was so heavy and so hard for the other side to process. When the Bengals franchise quarterback publicly admits the team is bad right now, it amplifies the impact of the Ravens win far beyond the final score. This isn't trash talk or outside noise. It's an internal realization that came straight from the opposing locker room after 4 quarters of total Baltimore control. This one wasn't built on one isolated moment, but on consistency. The Ravens were more organized, more disciplined, and more emotionally prepared. While one team was still searching for answers, the other already knew exactly who it was and what it wanted to be on the field. Burrow's comments almost worked like a stamp of approval. They confirmed that the Ravens' plan worked at every level of the game, from physical execution to mental wear and tear on the opponent. When the leader on the other side acknowledges that, the weight of the victory doubles. That's why this game goes far beyond just another division win. It reinforces hierarchy, sends a clear message, and leaves an impact that doesn't fade the following week. The Ravens didn't just win. They left their rival questioning its own identity. And that kind of victory tends to echo for a long time inside the AFC North. This Ravens win will be remembered not only for the dominance on the field, but for what happened afterward, when Joe Burrow put into words everything Baltimore's defense built snap after snap. His comments weren't random or exaggerated. They were the direct result of a game where the Ravens controlled tempo, space, and most importantly, the mental side of the matchup, showing maturity, identity, and strength in a division battle that's never easy. When the quarterback on the other side takes the blame, admits the team wasn't good, and openly shows frustration, it reinforces just how impactful this Ravens performance really was. This wasn't just another win. It was a clear statement within the AFC North, making it obvious who was prepared, organized, and confident, while the rival walked away full of doubts and internal questions. And now I want to hear from you. Was this the most dominant Ravens performance against the Bengals in the Joe Burrow era? Because if games like this start to repeat themselves, it's no longer an isolated result. It's a clear sign of a shift in the division's hierarchy, and Baltimore made it clear they have no intention of giving that spot up anytime soon.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.